There it is. Now it's going up. Hey, everybody, welcome to No Bull Logistics, KNOW, brother. You know what I'm saying? It's Curtis Garret, my good friend. Love you, brother. CEO Rate Hero. So we're going to get into Rate Hero, but you came out, you said, look, I changed my title and stuff to be more accurate as to what I do. Is it more accurate? And, I've never looked at your title before. I just thought you were Curtis. You were like the LTL guru. So,
yeah,
right. I mean, shouldn't it just say that?
Guru, yeah, whatever anyone wants to call me, as long as they'll listen and I can add some value. That's all I care about.
Well, LTL, you definitely can. I can vouch for that. That is for sure. That is absolutely for sure. So, what's going on with Rate Hero? And you're still doing the Understand LTL community, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's going really well. I'll touch on the Understand LTL, or as most people kind of have coined it, as ULTL at this point.
Yeah.
We did our 4th live event in June, so just over a month ago.
Wow.
And we're already planning. We're close to launching the 5th one. That'll be this November 10th and 11th in High Point. So that's going great. We've got carriers and 3PLs and tech companies from all over the country. Actually, some Canadian LTL carriers have been coming down. Had a few international technology and pricing services type companies come. So yeah,
it's fantastic. So explain a little bit about these though, because this is not your normal conference.
No,
right? You don't come and just observe.
Right. Your typical conference, you're either coming and just sit, you're in the crowd, you're just observing, listening, or you're coming just to get side meetings. And neither of those happen. This is like LTL summer camp or maybe LTL church. You're in the congregation. Nobody's leaving the room to set up, 20-minute speed dating pitches. It's
Gotcha.
just all very intimate. Everyone's engaged. And I've tracked every event so far. Every single person in the room has contributed, spoken, raised their hand, shared a comment of how they do that thing or see that problem. And we've kind of expanded the last couple events. We've got a little more creative with the content. So we've worked in some fireside chats and some panels.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all still just very open discussion. It's funny. Typically, the first session of the first event, everyone's kind of sitting there like, okay, I've heard this is different, or maybe I've been to one in the past and it was. And it's usually 10 or 15 minutes before somebody in the audience, raises their hand or says something. And then that kind of like opens the floodgates and there's just.
Then everybody gets comfortable.
Yeah.
It reminded me of a bull in the ring type of thing, right? Like the first person comes across, tries to knock your ass out, and then everybody and it's not an adversarial type of thing. It's just everybody gets it. Wait a minute. We're all here. This is like a think tank type of thing. Right?
Exactly. That's a great word for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like an LTL think tank. We as much as we can, we try to, leave our day-to-day and badges and companies at the door, so to say. I mean, we still, we're happy that whether it's in a session or just somebody in the crowd giving feedback, talk about the relevant, details and there's no like ban on saying who you're working for, but we're just trying to promote this LTL community. And there's competitors of all types. There's different carriers, different 3PLs, different TMS companies that are all sitting in the same room. And there's a lot of, behind the curtain stuff shared. So we've never recorded a single session and don't plan on it. We don't stream it. It's just kind of what happens in this room stays in this room.
So it's very non-commercialized, right?
Yes, I mean we've gotten.
I mean, it's got to be supported through sponsors and stuff, but this is not a commercialized thing. Like, hey, come and meet all these people. You get ass tons of business and blah blah blah. Exactly. It seems like real work is getting done here, right?
Yeah, but I've noticed too, like, just I kind of stay up with people,
Yeah.
and like, I just noticed a partnership between two companies yesterday that was announced, and they were both in the room back in June. So
Yeah. Well, what I'm getting to is true collaboration, like you said, not this speed dating thing where maybe you get a few cards and something comes of it down the line, and your boss goes, "Hey, what was our ROI?" and you make up some shit, right?
yep, exactly.
this
Yeah,
is this is like you're actually figured out a way to get the players in the room and do some collaboration and transparency. The
yep.
buzzwords of the truckload sector that have never really materialized, as far as I can see, anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, and understandably, right? That's such a fragmented, massive
It
industry.
is.
Um,
Sure.
so everyone, and depending on what service or what part of that industry you're talking about, it's maybe a little more commoditized. There's just more layers to LTL, fewer
Yeah.
companies, more layers, more complexity. But in a lot of ways, that's good, because we may have a topic talking, focusing on like back office efficiency, maybe aimed at like invoice or audit or that sort of thing. And it doesn't matter if you're a carrier, 3PL, shipper, or the tech platform, or where that data is running through. We can all talk about it, and everyone kind of adds their angle and perspective. And yeah, it's great. So that was those events. I mean, uh, probably one of the best things I've ever accidentally done. And the bar
Yeah.
the bar for the first one was just, I hope to God everyone shows up, and they did.
Yeah. That's it.
And
Yeah.
now
Yeah. Yeah.
from here, we're working on refining and making it better. And to your point, like, yeah, these cost money to throw, and to put on a good event. So we do take on some sponsorship partnerships and that sort of thing. But how
Mm-hmm.
do we do it again a little more thoughtfully and mindfully versus, hey, here's your list of people, go get a business card from everybody, we'll give you a 20-minute pitch session, and you're on your way. It's more of forming real deep relationships that last for years, and of
Mm.
course new commercial opportunities bubble up out of that.
Yeah, and moving. I mean, moving the industry forward, right? I mean, if there's, I mean, the truckload industry, just to compare it to, I mean, you could compare LTL to, ice cream franchises as well as you could. I mean, as far as its similarity to truckload, I mean, it's
Yep.
completely. There are trucks and are freight, and then that ends there, really. But it's very, very important for the different players within any industry, right, to understand the other sides, to make it more efficient, and to collaborate and break down and have that transparency. I would contend that in LTL it's more important than in other than truckload, right, and then other forms of shipping, just because of the complexity. I mean, you also do. And we can make the transition towards Rate Hero. So when you start to move towards Rate Hero, I mean, that's one of the most complex things there. It's one of the things that make it so hard. I guess it's the operations and all that type of stuff and the mixed less than truckload that creates the necessity or enables the rate. Which way is it? Does it create the necessity for the rates to be so crazy and hard to understand and to nail down as far as, you know, cubic utilization value
Yeah.
or revenue pack inside the truck, that type of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. It's complex because it's a heavily networked business model. So it's not just, when you talk about even like a market pendulum, it's a multi-hinged pendulum that's, certain parts of it are going this way, certain parts are going that way. It's not just a clean and simple like supply and demand situation. And everything key kind of happens within the network or within the trailer, within the crossdock. And part of why we called it Rate Hero, yes, we do pricing. We offer pricing and analytics services, RFP management, analysis on shipper accounts, all that sort of thing. But it's not just about that. We're looking holistically at like the average transaction cost of an LTL shipment and the entire life cycle that plays a part in that. So we've got a whole like Rate Hero flywheel where we're focusing on better pricing, process, and tools, better routing decisions, and catching up front before you mistender, the wrong shipment to the wrong carrier and have to get it rescued or brought back to the
Mm.
shipper.
Mm-hmm.
Audit and data verification. That's a huge issue where everyone kind of focuses on the audit itself. Like, hey, did this charge match with what the quote said it would be? But that's really a symptom of a bigger problem with, is your shipment data before and after the shipment moves in reality accurate? Does it mirror reality? Does it match what the carrier has, and does it match what really happened on the ground? And so
Yeah.
you can focus on that and say, okay, I'm confident that in my TMS or ERP or wherever my source of truth is for my shipment data as a 3PL
Mm-hmm.
broker, carrier, or shipper, does that match reality? And then if yes, then by default you're gonna have your audit box checked. You're gonna be disputing and pushing back on things where, hey, a lift gate was not added here or didn't need to be added. And then we take it a step further and kind of turn all that clean data back into like pre-pricing analytics. So it's really this flywheel that's like turning and very repeatable and kind of feeding itself.
Yeah. It's it's so complex, and it's one because there's both sides to it. So I mean, when you throw in the 3PL, then there's three sides to this, right? So now you've got a 3PL who needs to understand it, or this intermediary that needs to understand it as well, because they're going to be arguing with both sides. Is it as prevalent in LTL to have that 3PL involved as it is in truckload?
I don't know what the 3PL or broker like percentage rate is in truckload. I would say in LTL, it's probably around 35 to 40%
Yeah.
of accounts, and
Yeah.
maybe a bit higher when you look at like total spend or like shipment count volumes, essentially. So
Yeah.
it's growing. That's it's trending upwards. So yeah, it's the 3PL. They're in an interesting spot in that kind of
There's a
LTL
lot of room
relationship.
for growth there, huh?
For sure. And the thing that I see that's usually the wrong way to do it is when, they just take all the principles and process of how you run a successful truckload brokerage, where you're the entity in the middle. This is your customer. You're going out
Mm.
and finding carriers. And that makes sense in the truckload world, where the one of the biggest problems is just matching. It's just finding the right
Yeah.
carrier, the right capacity at the right price for that shipper. And there's so much more to it in LTL. I always say, if you look at all the shippers out there, hundreds of thousands of shippers in the United States that have LTL shipments, they've all at some time or another worked directly with a carrier, probably
Yeah.
have, relationships, whether it's way back when or whether it's current or what have you. So it just doesn't work for a 3PL to come in and say, all right, I'm the middleman. You can't talk to them. They can't talk to you. Everything's going to flow through me. I don't like that model. It's not efficient, and it actually gums up the process and makes it harder in a lot of ways. So it's
Well, there's a lot of. Go ahead. Go ahead.
more of a triangle. Like all three parties are communicating with each other, and based on the SLAs and the the management contracts established, yeah, maybe it's the 3PL's job to negotiate pricing on behalf of their shipper clients because they have the
Mhm.
expertise in that. Um, but it shouldn't be this like linear, hey, I'm just plunking myself down in the middle and you're
You
off.
only deal with me. Yeah, they've got
Yeah.
to be more of a liaison, right?
Yeah.
There's got to be more of that interaction between the three, because you can't just say. And when I started LTL brokerage, like 15, wow, yeah, 15, about 15 years ago, no, 20, almost 20 years ago. Um, yeah, the difficult. You couldn't just say, "Look, this is the cheapest carrier. Go for it." Like you might, and their service says it's the same, right? These things are different. You need to match the personalities of both a little bit more than that, and on specific lanes, right? Because when you're talking about a truckload carrier, you're talking about they've got their head hauls, they've got their back hauls. They're trying to keep their trucks moving. They want to eliminate empty miles, bobtailing, all that type of stuff, right? And they want efficient loading, efficient unloading, that type of thing. When you start getting into LTL, the dynamics of the region in North Carolina, and the distribution center used to call them break bulks, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And all the neighboring service centers and all those lanes. It may be called ODL here and ODL somewhere else, like in Georgia.
Yep.
Completely different operations because the mix of freight is completely different.
Right.
And they change and they interact with each other. So it's not necessarily a good business for ODL here, and it might be there, right?
For sure. Yeah.
So you've got
Every
to look
carrier,
for that.
I like the term personality. Every carrier has a different personality and speaks a different language, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
Where zones, regions, accessorial mapping, just
Sure.
everyone's cost model is jiggered up differently, and some love, small light minimum charge shipments, others hate them. So the problem, though, I mean, to give the shippers credit, I guess, where if you look at the most common data points, produced for them to make a carrier decision, it's price based off of just 2 zip codes, and then it's a estimated transit time. And so
Right.
most of the LTL carriers at a high level kind of look, feel, sound similar, but you got to get through that to a deeper layer in the onion and actually look at the true personality of each one.
Absolutely, because then you start looking at the different motivations within those separate personalities, within the bigger personalities, and one terminal is going to look a little bit closer and try and audit your freight a little bit differently than another one is.
Yep.
Based on what their cube utilization, their revenue per square foot inside or cubic foot inside that trailer is, et cetera, right? Revenue per load and all that type of stuff, efficiencies across the dock, how it mixes. Yeah, I mean, you try and get into management of sales in LTL and see how fun that is. I tried that for about 6 years.
I don't know that I knew that. I knew you were in operations at Roadway back in the day. You were in sales as well?
Well, once you get into being a terminal manager, et cetera, you carry your own accounts, and although you had a dotted line to all your sales reps as well. There was a district sales manager, but the day-to-day tactical was you. And when you start getting into the rates and freight mix and stuff like that, you had a definite seat at the table as to what that pricing was going to come out to.
Yeah.
And having that argument with Curtis over, well, I need this to hit my quota. That's fantastic, but you're going to rip, 2 decimal points off of my OR. Not so cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So figuring out yield and contribution to profits a little bit more difficult in LTL, a lot more difficult in LTL, I would say. For sure. Right? I mean,
that's what drew me into it was, I spent enough years on a dock with Old Dominion and observed, hundreds of trailers every single day with different mixes of freight inside. And I was just like, okay, how do we know, which of these pallets pays profitably, which ones are losers? Or dogs, or some might say. And
that's right.
It's so fascinating.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you learn, there's no ugly freight, just poorly priced. Right.
Right. And sometimes it's so ugly, you got to price it, well enough to keep it off your trailer. But
absolutely. I mean, absolutely. And, you run into I was running terminals in the middle of Pennsylvania, 5 terminals in the middle of central Pennsylvania. And one terminal had like Warnaco distribution and some other stuff. So it was like Hedstrom and another company. So I literally had clothing, beach accessories, and really packaging like Easter grass. Were 3 big. Wow. Okay. And then 20 miles north of that was all sintered metal plants in central Pennsylvania, like in St. Mary's and stuff like that. Right. So you get these pallets coming, like these beast of trailers coming in at class 50. They put one finished screw hole in them and they come out as class 55. Right. And you're talking about knee high weighted out trailers. And then I had, like 10,000 pounds on a set of pups coming out of a terminal 20 miles away. Right. And we're trying to marry those two together to try and send them the right direction. So it gets crazy, but this is a perfect example of how close 2 terminals can be, and their freight mixes and personalities are so different.
Oh, right? Yeah. And even within the same terminal, like those, 2 examples you gave of those types of accounts, I remember seeing, like one trailer would be floor to ceiling, like light boxes of, Tupperware or
Yeah,
car seats or whatever.
sure.
Next trailer is like heavy steel pipes that it weighs out at 22,000 pounds, and it's like the
Yeah.
freight is 8 inches off the floor. The next one's packed full of tires. Like, yeah, that's what's always interested me with LTL as well, is you get to learn about so many different businesses and products, and ultimately have to care about, okay, how do these things kind of interface and load through our network, as far as across the dock, in the trailers, out of the trailers.
Yeah. It's absolutely crazy when you're trying to marry those things together, and that kind of brings us to like the topic I'm getting to. I'm very interested in what you do, but we've got this change in the NMFC, and the NMFC has always been. I mean, I used to have a little pocket like size thing right on it. I mean, I could spot a W&I correction from 50 doors away. Just look down and go, bang, that's class 77 and a half. That is not class 60.
Yep.
and go nail it. But the NMFC is supposed to help with all these things or make it a bit simpler, right? What's the motivation behind this change? Where's it really coming from? Is it really to make things better, or is one side lobbied well enough to try and save money or make more money?
I don't think it's about one side, saving or making any more money. It's primarily to simplify, which
Yeah.
also goes hand in hand with, the NMFTA has been around a long time, and these freight classifications and all the different thousands of items have been done relatively similarly for decades. So
Mm-hmm.
it is a bit of like a modernization push, and hey, we need to stay relevant in a rapidly changing industry where all of their carrier members, are hanging dimensioning units in their barns, in their
Yeah.
cross docks. So
Sure.
as you see the average percentage of an LT, the total of LTL shipments get more and more getting dimensioned, that's just becoming the most heavily weighted metric when it comes to, okay, what's the true cost and risk of hauling a certain type of commodity.
Yeah.
And then you look at, this is felt more with a longer haul national carrier, but that line haul portion of the entire cost life cycle from pickup to delivery is definitely weighted a lot heavier in the line haul piece, with
Mm-hmm.
higher paid drivers, fuel costs going down the road, and just the potential, the risk for wasted space on that trailer. So
So they're taking it more toward density based, right? It's
yes,
is it?
so I want to be so clear, because I've heard so
Let's
many.
be very clear about that, because when I heard that years ago when they were talking about it going to density based, I was like, yeah, not buying it so much
Right,
because you still have stowability, bro.
right, yeah, and the value of different,
And value insurance, you got value, you got all that stuff. Yeah.
right, packaging, yeah. So there's been a lot of confusion. I think I've been hearing less and less of it, so I think it is kind of finding its way, downstream now with, okay, here's what's actually happening. If LTL pricing was going truly to density based pricing, you wouldn't need a class at all, right? You would just put in
Exactly.
the
Do the
dimensions and the
density.
weight, and that's it. And that's not the case. You still need to figure out the right freight class, and that is still, of the four major variables to calculate and pull an LTL rate, it's still origin zip, destination zip, weight, and freight class. So it's
Mm-hmm.
still class based rating. They've just converted a bunch of these, NMFC items that were just, hey, here's a single item slash commodity. Here's the single class it goes at. Or in some cases, here's a commodity and there's like a partial density scale, meaning if it's in a crate,
Yeah.
it's one class. If it's, not crated and on a pallet, it's another class. So they've carved out, like close to 3,000 of these kind of, I won't say random or one off, but just like these items where it's a very specific commodity that matches with the relevant code, and
Yeah.
just goes at that class. And
Yeah.
they've
Uniqueness to
unique,
those.
yeah.
Yeah.
So they've lumped them in to being now subject to this 13 sub item scale. So, going from 50 all the way up to 500. and there's a correlating density tier that basically tells you, okay, this is my density of this shipment, so here's the right class. So it's
Gotcha.
both, yeah, it's a simplification. It'll 100% make things easier and more efficient to any shipper, 3PL, trying to establish the right class for a shipment. But it's not a move away from commodity based classification. You still need that freight class to run a rate.
Yeah, you definitely do because there's many more aspects to the freight in LTL than just density, right? I mean, you get it like you said. There's stowability, the breakability of the stuff,
Yeah.
claims,
Packaging is
limitations.
huge. Like one of my
Packaging is
favorite
massive.
examples,
Yeah,
a lot of things travel through the supply chain network in the packaging that it'll remain in when it's put on the store shelf. Like think about a TV.
100%,
A
hundred
TV
percent.
is in a bright, like highly printed, brightly colored graphics, and they're not taking that out of a box and putting the bare
Yeah,
product on the shelf.
it's not packaged if it's moved that way. That's not
Right.
packaged.
So
Yeah,
in some cases like that, the packaging is actually part of the product. And so it is, well, yeah, it's cheaper to replace, the box of a TV than it is the entire TV itself, but it still is part of that product. And so those have their own special classification scale.
and well, they should because even a minor tear from a forklift blade or anything on that box devalues it, whether it's damaged the goods inside it or not.
Yeah, I mean it's completely binary, right? It takes it
Yeah,
from a consumer saying I'm going to buy that to you have a pinhole in the box and they're just not going to buy it at all.
that's
So,
it. Yeah, to a 50% open box item,
right,
right? Type of thing. Scratch and dent sale all of a sudden is what you move to. Yeah,
right.
some of those differences. So, will did they get rid of a lot of this like nested versus non-nested and that type of stuff, or knockdown versus knockdown flat, and all those arguments and stuff like that that you've run through?
Those are still in
Those
there.
are
I
still
mean,
there.
it's
Yeah. Okay.
from a big picture. There's fewer items because they consolidated and grouped a lot more
Yeah.
into these like general or NOI as they're called, not
Are there
otherwise.
double entries? I mean, I get into that all the time, right? One side is saying it's this, and then you go back 5,000 pages, and the other side saying, "No, well, here's almost the exact same description."
Yeah, there's still going to be translation issues, interpretation issues,
Gotcha. Yeah.
and that's still going to be a thing to some extent. But it is not to discount this move. I mean, it is a push forward. It's a positive one
Yeah.
to start.
I'm just trying to get through the hype and figure out what exactly is going down.
Yeah,
So,
no, it's good, and I'm being I'm just being clear in what I say because
yeah.
I've occasionally called out the whole system altogether. So I want to be clear that, I like what they did. It is a good push towards modernization.
Yeah.
Do I think ultimately, like I think the best ideal LTL pricing model or scenario down the road is one where we completely detach from a commodity or product based classification, 100%. But we're just not there yet, and that'll take some time. This is.
That's an interesting conversation we'll have to have because there's many questions I have of how you would solve specific issues. Is so? What do we read from FedEx delaying this?
Yeah, so it's something. So this came out last week,
Yeah,
basically saying, "Hey, we're going to delay enforcing any of these new classification changes
yeah,
for I believe it was 135 or
yeah.
maybe
To like
150 days."
December 1st or something like that. So yeah, it's a moving target. So
Yeah, that's interesting. I, I mean, look at what's happening at FedEx, right? They're spinning off the freight unit next year. I mean, they're already working underway to kind of realign the companies because they were so especially their sales units, they're so kind of packaged and bundled together with freight and parcel and all their services. So
yeah,
I'm sure they're trying to, forecast and figure out, okay, when our freight unit is running on its own and completely detached from the parent company, at least, operationally and reporting of numbers and revenue and profitability, we need to make sure that we're not going from a $9 billion+ a year carrier down to 7 or 8. That whatever
mm-hmm.
efficiencies and business volumes they had because of that super close relationship where they could offer incentives, to parcel shippers, and hey, we'll take your LTL as well and give you a discount, for that. So from like a sales strategy, it makes sense that this is, hey, we're going to be easy to do business with. We're going to have maybe a little more autonomy as the freight unit to kind of meet our customers where they are versus the way it's always been, the last couple decades. Most of what was pushed out process and technology wise was always kind of built and customized for the parcel side. And then the freight side just had to adapt.
What you're people aren't following what you're saying, but you're speaking very, very clearly. So I'm not sure if they were paying attention at all, they hear this, but the changes are not law, right? They're not. I mean, they are to a certain extent that you can argue them between two places, but there's nothing in there that says that I have to use the NMFC to price your LTL.
No.
And so, I mean, is it a really good move, just like you said, from a marketing and sales standpoint, to let people hash this out and figure out where it lands, and just let people use you in the old way and see who's going to really push the button to try and move this in their advantage, or see how this is going to work out? Because you could go in as Old Dominion or Freight or FedEx or whomever, and just leave the pricing the way it is if you want.
Yeah, it's not a law; it's a policy. It's a common policy that every carrier follows. I mean, that being said, every carrier also has other pricing alternatives. A lot of the bigger ones have cube and density, like true cube and density driven pricing. They'll have pallet rates, linear foot rates, van rates, whatever. So, but yeah, it's the most predominant form or mechanism for pricing, but it's a trade organization. It's part of, if you look at any LTL pricing agreement or pricing tariff, they list out, typically they're called the governing publications, or kind of all the rules that, go into this. And that looks at how mileage is calculated, how fuel surcharges are calculated.
Sure.
And they will list, this pricing is subject to NMF 100 rules and regulations. So every carrier has a choice. And it's an interesting equation to think, long term. I'm excited for when carriers do step out more and maybe take a perceived risk, but say, hey, we're actually going to push our customers away from just purely classification based. And that's gonna happen. I mean, it is happening with some more than others who are more progressive, who are confident that not only are they capturing the right weights and densities, when the freight's in their possession, but also as the adoption of electronic bills of lading continues to rise, getting that correct digital shipment data up front, that'll help that as well.
Well, I would suspect that, the rise of true application of AI, right, and advanced intelligence within our computing system, and the densifying machines, the Cubiscans, et cetera, the different types of things that are out there, that eventually, you could, or those that are progressive enough would start to create their own internal and be much easier pricing and completely go away from it. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's not crazy to think that could happen within not that many years, right? To change this and have truly dynamic changes in pricing due to your freight mix and understanding of what's moving through your network in each direction, et cetera, and have true, flexible pricing with people.
For sure. I think what we need to make sure doesn't happen is that carrier pricing becomes so dynamic and fluid that it turns into this black box that only they know, what the rate might be day to day, because shippers, like a lot of my analysis work through Rate Hero is helping shippers project over time what their freight is going to cost them.
Yeah, I get you. Then they lose the predictability of it. And
so I've always thought,
well, then you sell them freight futures and hedge.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've looked at, you log into your like retirement account for an example,
Hmm.
and there's all the variables at play there, the length of time, the aggressiveness of your investments, the potential interest rates, and you have like these sliding scales, and you can play with that and manipulate it, and it's still going to show you a quantified result, that's going to change as you change different variables. So that's to me, like at the end of the day, you still, as a shipper that understands your freight, your profile, your packaging, all the things that matter and basically drive costs for a carrier, you still need to be able to say, hey, I'm going to pay X in freight cost over the next 6 months or 12 months. If I'm using this set of carriers primarily, it can't be a complete crapshoot and just guessing, and the carriers just kind of changing up the model day by day. But it needs to be flexible enough where, a shipper can look at that and say, hey, if I were to shrink the average size of my pallet or the average weight of my shipments by X amount, here's what it's going to do to the freight cost. And that, I think, it would still give a framework that is, at the end of the day, like, it's the carrier taking on the risk of this freight running through their network, and they need to make money, obviously. So they need to set the price, but it also needs to be uh, transferable enough so a shipper's not just like, well, logging on today, what's my rate going to be? Is it Uber surge pricing? Are all the seats on the plane taken? Like, there's
Yeah.
in a B2B world where companies are spending millions and tens of millions of dollars a year each on LTL freight, there's got to be some, consistency to the pricing. So I think the problem now is the LTL rating structure as it's been for decades, that zip codes, weight, and class, and that's pretty much it, with fuel and accessorials added on as needed. It's so narrow, and you have such a vast number of freight, like commodities and different types of freight, different configurations and different service requirements, different locations. So you have all these things that are just the real world, and they're varied. There's a huge mix of those, but they have to be kind of normalized and shoved through these square holes of, well, what's your zips, weight, and class, and that just,
Yeah.
it doesn't transfer well. So,
No.
and that's why the rules tariffs are so thick now, because those are the duct tape essentially that like holds it all together. Anytime a carrier gets exposed to something they haven't accounted for that adds a lot of cost to their operation, they throw an item in the rules tariff as kind of the disclaimer to handle that next time. So I think ultimately, if we can shrink the rules tariff and have that truly be the terms, conditions, kind of service, agreement, pull a lot of those cost driven items out of there and bake it into this overall pricing model, um, and then have it be largely, dimension and freight characteristic driven. That's where we need to get to.
Gotcha. Do you have a favorite rules tariff? Or tariff?
Oh man, I
Mine
like.
was mine was always well, I'll let you answer first.
I'm curious what you're gonna say. I care a lot about like the product level experience. A rules tariff is a product, right? It's something that you interact with. It's IP. It's an asset of the carrier. So I'm not a fan of like the fine print, legal looking document, that some carriers still have, where you have to use Control F on your keyboard to find what you're looking about. So
Yeah.
XPO has a good rules tariff experience. They have a pretty good website for finding all their
No,
different.
but I mean your favorite rule inside there. I mean, when you were on a dock and you're going on it, was it like, there's one. I
Oh,
want
the
to nail
rule.
that. Yeah.
Well, when I was a W&I inspector, I loved the capacity load rule, because I remember, finding
Yeah.
cross country
Full
shipments.
visible capacity.
Yeah, but it was
Is that what you're
better
talking about?
when they defined it to like either greater than 20 feet or 20,000.
Yeah. Like and articles of extreme configuration, those were my favorite.
Yeah, I mean
I
there
love
there
those.
was there's only a couple carriers that have this caveat now, I think, but it used to be more common, and it was like, if there is an additional piece tendered, that's
Yes.
as big as the largest piece within the shipments, and that imaginary piece would not fit on the trailer.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about. I love those terms because when I was a W&I inspector, I nail it all the time.
Yeah.
Now, when I was a terminal manager and in charge of sales, I was like, "Come on, man!" but there isn't an imaginary piece. So how can you do
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember thinking that same thing. Like, who was smoking what when they came up with this rule?
But if you ship this imaginary piece, we got a charge that could possibly have.
Yeah.
Anyways, brother, what are you pushing, man? What's your wares? What do we need to tell people to reach out for you for? You got the ULTL coming up in November, right?
Yes.
So
Yep.
where they finding that out? Just you on LinkedIn, or where they go to check out that? And who should?
Well, me on LinkedIn is where they can find anything I'm doing, but we'll have registration and the agenda launched by the end of next week for the next event. So that's understandltl.com is where they can find that.
Yeah, don't do it unless you want to participate and learn. I know that for a
Don't
fact.
come and be a wallflower. I mean,
No, it ain't gonna work. Not gonna work.
no. And then
what else?
RateHero.io is we're the digital empire of what we're building out on the Rate Hero side, and that's, I mean, I'm happy having any LTL centric conversation and see if there's a way to help. But obviously, our expertise is kind of focused on that, that pricing and rating side of things.
Fantastic.
But yeah, just trying to live the LTL dream and keep having fun with it.
Do you still have freight mares from back in the day, or no?
I've got so many domains that'd be a fun episode if I just pull up my GoDaddy account and we go through all the different domains I have.
There you go.
Like, what were you thinking when you bought that one? I think I own LTLshit.com. I know I have that.
LTLshit.com.
I haven't done anything with it, but
that is awesome, brother. I love it, man. Hey, man, it's been a pleasure. We're out of time, but it's been awesome, and we'll talk again soon, I'm sure. I love what you're doing. Everybody, thank you for tuning in, downloading No Bull Logistics. He's Curtis Garret. Check him out where he said to check him out, man. And hey, ULTL, I'm going to be there. Maybe. I don't know. I love LTL, dude. You probably don't want me in a room because I'll start talking about old war stories and stuff.
No, if you say you're coming, I'll prop the back door open. You can
do it, brother. I'll come in, but we're gonna have to talk about drag lines and diesel forklifts and all that kind of stuff that we used to do back in the day. Fantastic, brother. Peace and love, my friend. I love you, Chris.
All right. Take care.
Hey,